Are you hearing a lot about AI fatigue? Maybe you're even feeling it yourself. But to me, that's like ignoring the advent of the automobile. I'm so dang tired of these contraptions. Giddy up, Trigger. Hello and welcome to the Business of Story. No, I'm not Yosemite Sam, I'm Park Howell, and if you are a founder, marketer, or business leader navigating growth, then you know that AI isn't a fad. It's the biggest transformation since the Industrial Revolution. And if you can harness its potential through practical systems and purposeful storytelling, well, then you can create a go-to-market engine that it scales with complete confidence. But it's easy to feel totally overwhelmed because the AI space is noisy. It's full of empty promises and rarely tailored to your specific growth stage or brand soul. So you'll love today's guest, Hamlet Azarian, an agentic AI pioneer who's raised over $269 million for startups by showing them how to automate smartly, scale wisely, and free them to share their brand stories that actually convert. Hey, guess what? We have launched our Story Cycle Genie, which you can now access at storycyclegenie.ai. It'll turn the overwhelming prospect of developing your branding into an overjoying experience fast. I ran Hamlet's brand through the Genie, and you'll hear what this agentic AI wizard thinks of the platform. Here are the voices of others who have experienced the exceptional speed, efficiency, and brilliance of the Story Cycle Genie.
This son of a bitch. I gotta tell you, it is outstanding. So congratulations for what you've built.
When I gave it feedback, I just loved the language that it presented back. It was very conversational. It was very relatable. It was like, that's a great point. I didn't think about that.
I couldn't promote it more to people listening. Like, you got to try this thing out. It's really spooky good.
Honestly, it gave me even more than I anticipated. Like, I don't have a blank slate, so I've got so much to use to work with. It's awesome. Thank you. I'm so glad I was able to be a part of this.
Yeah, it's something that I feel would be useful to anybody who, like me, wants to fine-tune their messaging, wants to ensure that anything they release is on brand. Just the utility of it is off the charts. So I can't wait to get my hands on it.
I love it. I mean, it's genius, right? I mean, what's not to love about it?
Think of the Story Cycle Genie as your branding content agency in a bottle, which will help you craft your brand narrative strategy in minutes, not months, and instantly create converting content based on your unique, authentic, and authoritative brand voice. Start letting your brand genius out of the bottle today at storycyclegenie.ai. Now, let's say hello to Hamlet Azarian. Well, good afternoon, Hamlet. Welcome to the Business of Story.
Park, thanks for having me on.
And you told me you're coming to us from a brand new house in Los Angeles. I can hear the echo behind you because you probably don't have everything all moved in yet.
The only thing I got moved in is an air mattress. That's where we're at so far.
And whereabouts in LA are you?
We're in Valencia.
Valencia. Great. Well, I really appreciate you coming on today. We're going to tackle yet another subject on AI and AI marketing. And I got to tell you, a lot of folks that I've seen making comments on LinkedIn and other places are saying, I'm so sick of AI and hearing about AI and talking about AI. Well, it's here. And it's not going to go anywhere. And it's probably the biggest revolution since the, industrial revolution. And so I think we need to talk about it a little bit.
A little bit is true. And I don't know if about the Industrial Revolution. I only could speak about things in my lifetime, but it reminds me a little bit of when the, internet came out when I was a little bit younger. And then also at the same time when mobile phones came out when I was a bit older. It's one of those transformative periods in our lifetimes that we really do need to pay attention to.
Yeah, absolutely. And you do a lot of work in the startup area. You raised hundreds of millions of dollars in venture capital for folks and funding and so forth. And when did you embrace AI and start really putting it to work?
When OpenAI in June 2020 released their APIs, we got right on it. And this is like a historical part of me that I always embrace technology. And as soon as something new comes out, I try to figure out the practicality of it. How do you take something very complicated and simplify it?
And what was your first reaction when you looked at it way back when in June of 2020?
I saw potential, right? It wasn't as evolved. The LLM models were still it's called hallucinations, where they were just making facts up. You really didn't know how to use it because no one really did. So you were just pushing the envelope of what it can and can't do. But for us, what we saw was the potential. And we said, all right, there's something definitely here. And how do we go about embracing it early on? And we started utilizing it in some of our content production workflows, and also as well as our planning workflows through ideation and really kind of helping generate different ways of thoughts that we might not be thinking about. And in the early phases of that, it was pretty good at it.
And how are you applying it today?
I don't think there's a workflow that we don't apply it to today, to be honest. So internally, we apply it from everything from product management to strategy development to sales, obviously to marketing, to content, to design. You kind of name it, in every single one of the agency's areas, we apply it, and let alone for our clients as well. And we call them our partners. We try to figure out how we can enhance overall their businesses, and obviously in marketing, which is what we do. But we also look at it in different things, from chat development to operations. So wherever we see buckets that they might not be taking advantage of, we try to get them to become first AI ready, then at that point, then transform them utilizing AI in the right places in their workflows.
And why don't you just give us a little bit of overview of your agency and what it is exactly you all do and for whom?
Of course. So we're a growth agency. So what that means is we partner with high growth companies. So it might be either startups at the early stage that have recently raised about $1 million or so, and they're super early for the startup world. This means they have really not scaled up. They don't have a go to market engine, and they're trying to figure it out. They might have a product, they might have an idea, and they're really iterating through this. And they hire us to figure out that go to market engine for them. The other clientele that we have are, I would say, businesses that are doing anywhere between 2 to 10 million, and they're kind of stuck. They've been founder led. They've been doing really well. On the books, they look like, if you were an accountant looking at their business, you'd be like, man, you are profitable. You are crushing it, right? But if you talk to the actual business owner, he is stuck. He's stuck doing the 2 to 4 range. He's not able to figure out how to go from being founder led to having a proper go to market engine in place, and how to be able to scale up. So this is our second base of customers that we help, and kind of teach them how to do that, how to build a systemized scaling system that has a go to market engine behind it. And then third group is they've penetrated over 10 million. They might have one or two marketing people in their company, but 10 is not enough. They're not small anymore, but they're not big, right? So bigger competition takes notice of them. Competition is much fiercer in this range, and they are trying to figure out how to get to the next milestone, which is roughly around 50 million or so. And they need the more modern technology of marketing to be able to enable this for them. And there's a reason I gave you those numbers, the 1, the 10, and the 50 million, by the way. Those are usually areas where either venture capital or private equity will value the business at a different threshold. And this is part of what they're trying to achieve as well, too.
And so is a lot of the marketing automation you're bringing to it using agentic AI, is it operational? Is it creative development? Is it storytelling? Or is it a combination of all those?
It's across the board in every department. So how did we get there? So I think that's kind of the fundamental core of how you build an agentic AI system. Is we tend to look at repetitive tasks. And we say, okay, what is a workflow that you are currently doing within your company and whatever it might be, right? So we go department by department by department. And for us, marketing is easy because that's the core of what we do. So we're able to spot that, but that doesn't have to be there. It could be sales. And I'll give you an example of sales, right? So when you are going to have a sales call, there's two ways you actually get a lead. One could be lead generation where you're going to go out and prospect them, and the other one could be inbound where they come in. So let's stay just focused on the inbound part. So when the lead actually comes in, you're not going to just hop on a call and have a conversation with them, right? You want to do some background work. Yeah, it's typically an SDR role where they will be researching the lead, learning about their business, learning about who they are, kind of look at their social profiles these days, see if they're active, and if they are, what are they posting about? Look at their company social profile, get a good sense of type of clients that they have, what type of business do they do, read the news about them, see if there's any interesting news that has broken out. But go through this research phase. Everything I just told you can be automated. So literally an agentic AI system can do all of that the second a lead comes in. So from the point of the email coming in and from the point of the company domain coming in, it's able to go and gather all that information for you, update your CRM, load it in there for you, but that's not it. It will also prepare a series of qualifying questions for you to potentially want to ask it. So now you can sit down and have an actual meaningful conversation with them and go through the questions. And then in addition to that, you can take it to the next level, which is you can start now having the call. And on this call, you might record it, then post that call. It will then evaluate how you did during the call. So that's another agent that you could build that will coach you. It'll be like your sales manager. It will teach you, it will coach you, it will say how you responded to the questions that were brought up, how you probed in and asked qualifying questions further. And then in addition to that, it could start getting the proposal ready for you. It could start doing all the follow-up tasks for you and items as well. And I could go on. So this was just one slither of what these systems can do today.
And how do you define agentic AI?
So it's a repetitive process, right? So the way I define it, and part of this is, you have to kind of think like a system, and you have to think like a program. And for me, an agentic system or an agentic AI system is something that can go through a loop or a repetitive process over and over again. And it has tools that it could utilize. So it's no longer, so like if you go to 2020, LLMs were you would prompt it, it wouldn't give it an answer back. So it was as simple as that. Then the next evolution that came were RAG or retrieval augmented generation. This is when you would provide it stuff, right? So you would provide it a PDF document, you would provide it a picture, and you would provide it what's called context, and that context would then give you a better answer. Now an agentic system are tools. So what tools are its ability to go out to the web and search for you. It's its ability to go within your CRM and look at the context of the information and bring it back. And let alone write the information. So it might be able to write on a Google Doc for you, or it might be able to write an email for you and send it, or it might be able to read. So all of these different tools are what are the cornerstone of the creation of agentic AI systems.
So you're using this systems approach to replace repetitive, time-consuming minutia tasks and turning them into momentum, as I like to say, because you can collapse that time frame to do all that discovery and get it all into the system from days down to literally seconds, I would imagine.
Not seconds. We're not there yet because it still has to think. But yes, from days to, let's say, 10, 15 minutes or so.
Yeah.
So, and what it really is enabling, and this is kind of where I think a lot of people get this wrong, it's not replacing humans, right? So this is still a collaboration with you and your AI enabled tool. And what it's enabling really, and it happens across all of our team members and even our partners, is it frees you up to think differently. So now you're able to think more creatively, you're more able to think strategically, and you no longer are looking at your 8-hour day or 9-hour day. And if you think about how most people do that day, they'll spend 2 to 4 hours of repetitive things that potentially should be not be there in their course of the day. So now it's freeing you up for 2 hours of deep thought or 3 or 4 hours of strategic thought of, hey, if I get this time back, what would I do with it? And that opportunity is what's allowing you to be able to scale up. It's not the system itself, it's your ability to be able to think freely and be able to think in a different way.
And be able to apply your creative energy to the things you really love doing versus having to burn all that exhausting energy on the repetitive tasks that AI could easily do it. And I heard the other day too, and I love this, is that AI is look at it as a collaborator, not a competitor.
Exactly.
Now, in some areas, it is a competitor. It can compete with how you write. It can compete with how you storytell, but it doesn't mean it's better than you. It just means that, yeah, it can do it, but you've got to bring your humanity to whatever it creates so you don't just sound like everybody else out there.
Exactly. I think what it solves more than anything else is the blank page problem in writing, right? So
Mhm.
it turns writers into journalists. That's kind of how we talk about our content team is you no longer are just like sitting there and writing. You need to go do research. You need to really understand the story of what you are going to be putting pen and paper down on. And then in addition to that, once you provided all of this information, it's just giving you draft version 1.
Mhm.
It's not gonna be anything near to the level you want. Even if you give it the brand voice, even if you give it context of articles you've written in the past, you still need to go through it and revise it and edit it and get it to a point where it sounds more like you.
Mhm. So, say I am a new customer of yours and you are going to bring agentic AI into my system. Are you having to build custom versions of the open AI that's out there and applying them in there? Or how does it work where your customers are not having to deal with and worry about hallucinations from open AI and it just basically making stuff up, where it is truly specific to what their business needs and their communication and marketing needs are?
Yeah, so what we do is we go through a series of core documents. So what are core documents? Core documents could be anything from your brand voice. What do you want to sound like? What are things you've written in the past that you're proud of? And we will define that clearly on this is exactly who you are and this is what you will be saying and this is how you say it. Then we go through another core document might be your customers. So who are your existing customers? If you have case studies, great. If you don't, we will help write it and establish it and produce them for you. So these are metrics that it will utilize. Any blog you've written that you're really proud of, we will also have that as a core piece. So there's a series of this documentation. There's a bunch of them. I just gave you like 3 different
Mhm.
examples that you have as a point of reference. Then you have a point of reference of what I call like example files. Like if there's hooks that you like, right? So now you go about and you have different starter files of these are the best hooks I've written or read of or heard of, or in general elements of content that really strike out for you. So this might be things like if you're an email, if one of the agents is an email agent, it might be subject lines that have performed historically well for your audience. So these are also fine tuning elements, right? So now different agents serve a different role. So you might have one that's a long form writer, so it has different tools at its disposal that it has access to. And you might have one that all it does is it just creates social media posts. And the way it does that, it reads one of the long form articles, refines it, goes through the hooks and utilizes it, and what is able to create a really short social media post. So as you can see, these different elements or foundation blocks that you have, or what allows it not to hallucinate? Because it's going through and utilizing the different tool mechanisms and the data that you're providing it, and it's using those as the foundation versus the general model as a whole.
And is this a platform that you all have built that they come in and it ingests it into your platform and then gives them the
I
input?
wish I could take credit for that. No, and the beauty of what's happening now is there are so many we're at a speed, and we're at the age of ideas, okay? And what do I mean by that? So the way the models have come out and tools like Cursor and Bolt and Lovable, and these are some really cutting edge tools, and even you can use Code and Visual Basic Editor. At the age we're at, there's this new phenomenon called vibe coding, which is allowing startup founders to be able to take ideas that they have and build fully functioning MVPs and products within days, not months. And because of that, there's been an influx. And when I say an influx of new tools coming out, there's so many no code editors that are coming out. And one I just did a recent at New York Tech Week webinar on what's called Gumloop. So that's a tool that we like to utilize to build some of these systems, at least to show first concept on. And because of these different tools, there's no need for someone like us to build it. We can just go and piecemeal these different tools together and create the systems. The systems are not built, right? You still need to architect that and you still need to customize that. But there's no need of like going through months and months of an iterative cycle with a dev team and get something built out. You can be up and running within days as long as you have a clear idea what you're trying to accomplish.
Isn't that amazing? So, if you're working with a startup or maybe you're trying to take that $5 million mom and pop business that has this great business model but is being bogged down and they want to get to that 10 million mark, what are some of the first 2 or 3 areas you look at with them that a listener could take away and say, maybe I should really be considering such and such?
Go to market is always the first and cornerstone place. Is we all want more sales and we all want to make our sales process better. And what we typically do in any type of engagement with us is we go deep in that area and we try to understand, okay, how are your customers finding you today? And what is the measurable way that if you were to put another dollar in, would that dollar return enough back to you that it's profitable? So what's your return on ad spend or what's your ROI? And do you have that figured out yet? If you don't, that's the first place we focus on, right? So we focus on our like, all right, let's make sure that the engine you have that can bring new customers in is actually working. And this could be one of many ways we do this, right? Depending on the business, it could be a B2B business, so there's a whole playbook around that, or it could be a B2C business, and there's a whole playbook around that.
Could you give us an example of a customer that you have that came to you and they did not have their go-to-market strategy and operation down, and what you did to help perfect that?
Yeah, of course. I'll give you a bootstrap startup. So I know I just said a lot in that. What the heck does that mean if you're not in the startup world? A bootstrap startup is someone that hasn't raised any money. So this is like imagine starting a new business and now deciding to start a business in a category where you're competing with people who have raised money. It's crazy, right? It's like, let alone you're just starting a business, but you're starting in a business where everyone else around you has raised, I don't know, 5 million, 10 million, 20 million on day one, and you're starting at zero. So I'll give you that story. So this is of a restaurant tech platform called orders.co. And when we met them, they really didn't even have a website. So at this stage, they had a great product that they had built. They wanted to go to market. And they really were focused on helping small and medium pop restaurants to be able to handle their online ordering platform. And this is really back in the day where if you had walked into a restaurant, you might have seen a DoorDash a tablet, and you might have seen an Uber Eats tablet, and you might have seen a Grubhub tablet. So there was multiple tablets all over the place within the restaurant by the POS. And their vision was, can we get rid of all of those tablets and just have one tablet that can manage every single one of them? Which they did. Fast forward today. So how do we help them? We help zone in on who their customer persona was, figure out exactly what the pain points were for them, develop a scalable go-to-market engine initially on Facebook to be able to help acquire these customers. Do the same thing on Google, mainly through SEO, and then follow up with email marketing and so on and so forth. So fast forward to today, they are no longer a simple, let's say, order aggregator. They do a lot more. So they now help you build a website using prompts and AI. They help you run your email marketing in the back end for the restaurant. So it's actually emailing the customer base and getting them to purchase and buy again. And they are now about to launch their own POS system as well. So now it's all simplified in one POS. It not only helps you on your sales side and your go to market side, but it helps you on your operation side as well. They have served well over 1,000 different restaurants as of today, still bootstrapped. So I know it's crazy to hear this, still completely bootstrapped. Have turned down venture capital money several times. Shocked me every single time that they have done it, and continue to grow the business remarkably well, and excited to see where this business will go. And this is one of many stories that we have that we can share.
Yeah. So we were looking at that first step is the go to market, really look at that, examine it and figure out where your weak points are and how to strengthen it using agentic AI. What's the second, maybe most profound place for them to look?
Yeah, so then it falls into like operations, and sometimes people can go into customer support and as your business, it depends on what stage you're at, right? So if you're a larger business, I think operations is a great place to look at. So this is typically in B2C businesses because you might have a lot of support ticket coming in or a lot of help desk inquiries coming in. And that's a great area because you're hearing directly from your customers. And that's rich data that can be utilized for not just answering customer service inquiries, but giving the product team or the business as a whole insights to what's working well and what's not working well. So it gives you a really good pulse of, hey, something's wrong here. We should probably focus on fixing this particular problem before we move on to something else. Another great area is if you're in B2B is sales. I know we talked about go to market, but the actual sales process itself, from link prospecting to finding qualified leads to doing outreach. And then there's a new way of doing all of this, which is called signal based outreach, where you're actually listening in to different signals occurring. So what do I mean by that? One of our clients is a recruiting firm. So they help different businesses basically get different businesses find the right talent and be able to give them a job, right? So there's tools now that you can listen in and see if there's prospective clients that you want to reach out to, for example, if a key executive has recently left. So the moment a key executive has left or has transitioned and gone to another job, that there's going to be a major vacancy that needs to be filled and completed. So now you can go out and reach out to them and be able to do that. In addition to that, they can listen to everyone else that they've historically ever placed. So they can see, hey, I placed Park at a director level within this organization, and Park recently got promoted to a VP. So I can, first of all, congratulate Park that he got his new promotion, but probably also find out who's going to be replacing Park in the new director level, and if Park needs help to be able to fulfill that new opening that he has, and so on and so forth, right? So these types of tools and this is just one firm, but it could be utilized for other different things, is another way you can kind of be utilizing agentic AI.
Yeah. And then we're really talking about operations here, go to market, sales, and so forth. Let's talk about the creative side. And you had mentioned earlier that you have your agentic AI agents ingesting content to get the tone of voice and brand and so forth. how close does it get you to actually a decent creative product versus now the human having to come in and really create something that's going to get noticed out there?
It's getting better and better. So 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I would say human involvement in it would have been substantially more. And part of it is I think we were also learning on how to utilize it.
Mm-hmm.
So now the human involvement and has changed. So if you think about the writing process or the creative process, there's the ideation phase, right? So in the past, I think where we might not spend so much time in ideation because we were so forced on the other mechanisms of this, which then is the research phase. And then from the research phase is the initial writing phase or the creation phase. And then it's the editing phase. And then post editing phase is the distribution phase. And then post the distribution phase, it's the analytics phase. And then you're back to the ideation phase, right? So, like, if you look at that journey and you blocked out every single one of those different things, I think where we spent our time predominantly before was in the writing and editing phase. So, and we would skim out on the ideation phase and we would skim out on the other end, which is the distribution phase. So, and the research phase. Those two, three things did not get the attention and the love that they needed. So, what I think has happened now, if you do it properly, is you take that time that you were using in the writing and editing phase and you allocate it in the front end a little bit into the ideation phase, but with an LLM partner where you're kind of generating ideas together and you're trying to figure out what's really good, what you want to write about. And also with a research assistant where you're looking at, let's say, SEO volumes or trends or news stories, and you're planning out sort of a sequence of article or content that you want to produce, which we really didn't do that well before. And then in addition to that, now you spend a lot of time in the research phase. So you start digging heavy and deep into using tools like Perplexity for citations, or you start actually doing research yourself like a journalist would and really gathering, original data sources that you're proud of. You don't necessarily need to read all of it because the LLM model can read it for you, but you're more going and finding the sources that you think make sense, and then from there, then you go to an outline phase where you're just outlining all of your thoughts. If you do that properly, it writes an incredible piece for you. Then now the editing phase becomes very shorter, much shorter, right? So you're
Mm-hmm.
in and out really quickly, reviewing it, let alone if you gave it your style of writing and brand voice and all of those different things that we talked about before, that becomes even shorter, even less. Now you go into a new phase, which you never did before, which was like distribution. I think what most people did in the past was they would just post it on their blog and then maybe, share it on one social channel or two social channel. Now you can go even further. You can start reaching out to people, sharing the content that you've written, find other content similar to yours, be able to go partner with them, do collaborations with them, things of that ilk that you never got to before.
And AI can do all that for you because it's got your content and it knows the theme, the tone, the one problem you're solving for in this particular content, pushes it out there and attracts not only readers, but potential collaborators to help spread your story.
Exactly.
Yeah. What do you do when a customer shows up and maybe they don't have the greatest brand in place and or have done a very good job, especially in the startup world, of really developing that brand story to be clear, concise, compelling, and to create a true differentiator for them in the market?
Yeah, it's the first step, honestly. It's understanding your unique value proposition and how are you different in the marketplace than everybody else. And this is for the startup world. This I think applies to any business, right?
It does.
So
Yep.
so this doesn't change. So and there's many ways that you do this. One of which is you can look at the competition and you could see how they're positioning themselves, how they're trying to talk to the same customer profile. And then you have to look internally and see how you're different, right? What are your strengths? What make you special? What make you different in overall in this crowded market? I don't think there's any market that does not have competition. I think we are way past that age. And then once you've kind of figured that out, what we highly recommend is focus on one customer profile that you can really make a difference for, and you zone in and you kind of go deep with that within that profile. You might in the early days test different unique value propositions because you're not quite sure what would resonate. So how you do that is you might run Facebook ads and you might kind of see how they're reacting to, or you might have landing page copy to see how they're reacting to that. And once you've gotten a X amount of or statistically significant data results around that, then you just go deeper and deeper into that one area, and that becomes your overarching brand story because it will fit with everything that you wanted to do anyways, right? It was the core of where you started from.
Mhm. And do you have agents that do that for them?
It's not there yet, no. So we have agents that will suggest ideas, right? We have agents that will uh, give you, maybe you should try A, B, C, D, E, and so on and so forth. But the reality is that you still have to test it. You still have to make sure whatever it's suggesting is aligned with who you are and so on, and what you believe in. And then once the data metrics come in, sometimes it might be to a point where, let's say you had 5 options, 2 or 3 of them are pretty even in the market, and you have to then still evaluate and decide, at the core of it, this is your representation of who you are as a organization, as a company. What do you generally believe in? What do you stand for, and what do you want the overall market to know you for?
Yeah. Well, I'll put our startup to the test with you, and that is our Story Cycle Genie that does all of that you just talked about. And I ran your brand through it just by simply feeding it your URL and created the report. I know you had a chance to take a look at it. What'd you think? Because that is the idea. That is the niche that we are trying to fill, is that you don't have to spend months doing all this brand development, that you can, over the course of minutes or a couple of hours, get a foundational brand story down that then you can test and you can tweak, and everything, every piece of content after that is based on that foundational brand story that is unique to who you are, differentiating you in the market. It's authoritative because it shares your unique perspective, and it's authentic because not only has it read how you're already out there, but then it enables you to tweak that so you can really dial it in. With what I sent to you, what was the impact it had on you? Was it accurate,
I thought it
close?
was great. But let me there was things about it that were interesting insights, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that it revealed, and overall, Park, I shared with you this before, we started this. I was late to our kickoff call because I was actually consuming the content because I was like, oh, this is pretty good. This is nice. Oh, this is interesting. But where I think it does really well, obviously, with just any AI models, is if it has the content to read. So in our scenario, there's a lot of stuff we have out there, right? So from our webinars to our academy and our school to our, I don't know, at this point, thousands of articles that we've written, to all the podcast interviews that I've done, to my social media activity, and I'm sure some of the classes I teach at the universities. I just have a lot of body of work or content that LLM models can consume, which
Mm-hmm.
I think it did a fantastic job of summarizing and putting that together. My challenge for you, and this is the challenge that we sometimes have, right, is when a business hasn't been as active, and I'm at the extreme of activity if you kind of
Correct.
look at it.
I'm with you. I'm the same way. So, yep.
So if a business hasn't been as active, I think where the models might struggle a little bit is, this is where I think the human one-on-one conversations and the testing and the iterations in the early, imagine when it's a new business, right? There's absolutely
Mm-hmm.
no history, nothing's been produced. I'm not quite sure how well the models will really capture what's inside of the human soul and the psyche, or the core foundation team of the founders, the co-founders. They might not have even talked about some of these things yet, of what they're trying to accomplish, how well it'll be able to capture that.
Well, we should put it to the test. If you've got a client, I'll put that out to you, that is, brand new to you and they are in that realm for absolutely no cost to you, I would run it through the Genie and send you the feedback and see what
I
you
love that.
think.
Let's do it. Let's do
Is
it.
it? Let's just put it to the test. And we have done it with others like that. And what we ask it to do is, if they have a basic website up, fine, just feed that. If you've got a marketing plan, feed that into it. If you've got a white paper or thoughts that you've just jotted down, feed that to it. And I have been really pretty surprised at how well it does three things. It validates your thinking in some areas, like, yep, this seems to be right on. It certainly reveals the gaps and highlights the missed opportunities that you're going to have to fill in. And then number three, it inspires you. Like you said, there are some insights in yours like, oh, yeah, that's pretty cool. It inspires you with fresh ways to think about and tell that story. So we should do it. You've got one. I'll have you back on and we'll talk about how it worked for that particular brand.
I love that. We're definitely going to do it.
Yeah, because it's been so much fun. So going back to what you were scanning through it, what were some of the things that caught you by surprise that you're like, oh, that's
yeah, I'd never heard of that way of phrasing it.
the
So I
magician
got
archetype.
yes. I was like, oh, interesting. I was like,
It says that's your primary archetype is the magician, your secondary are sage and hero. And these are, of course, the personality archetypes that infuse your brand, that inform a consistent, compelling way to communicate it. And it reads here, the reasoning the Genie gave for why it selected those three for you says, these archetypes best represent your brand personality and how it connects with audiences. And again, that's pulling it from your body of work. The magician drives your core identity as someone who transforms complex AI technology into practical business results, making the impossible possible. The sage secondary archetype adds depth through your educational mission and knowledge sharing via Growth Lab webinars. And the hero secondary archetype reinforces your achievement-oriented approach to proven track record of helping others succeed. This combination creates a brand that is both visionary and credible.
that was pretty good.
And so in your communications out there and your website and whatever, do you feel like you bring kind of a magician tone to it that you can make quote unquote magic happen with AI?
See, here's the difference though, like where it's slightly off, right? So if you actually had watched any of our Growth Lab webinar series, we don't do the wow and not show you how it works. So I'll give you classic examples, right? So one of the early Growth Lab webinar series is when I taught everyone, when the LLM models came out, how they were actually built up to this moment that we have ChatGPT, and what are the different types of models, and how I went about at this time. My son Sebastian was 4 or 5 years old. How I taught him to use the different LLM models using Finding Nemo as a storyline throughout this whole process.
Cool.
Right. So that's one example. Another example is when AI overviews initially came out, and I've been doing this for 20 years, as I read patents, and Google's patents particularly. I did a deep dive and showed all the different patents that Google had released around AI overviews and what my thoughts were on how this particular system itself works. And I showed it to everybody else that was in that club. All right. The last one we just did for New York Tech Week, I went out and I showed people how an agentic AI system works. And I walked them through, and I walked did a no-code tool, then built one from ground up and showed them the content writing process and showed it. So it was I don't feel when I think of the word magician, I think of, here in LA, there's Magic Castle, and you go to it and all the magicians are there.
Oh, I've been there. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? But
Yeah.
you're always dying. How did they do that? How did the trick work? So this is where I think it's a little off, where I'm showing you the trick, I'm explaining it to you, and I'm walking literally through every element of it.
Yeah. Like I like to say, you have to understand the magic if you're going to cast the spell. You are showing them the magic. But in the genie too, this is just the first blush because I knew nothing about you. I dropped it in there and voila, here it is. But you, as the user, can then go in and refine anything you want in the genie to build out that final foundational brand story that you're like, yeah, that's it. And in fact, getting very meta, I put the Story Cycle Genie through the Story Cycle Genie for our brand story. And it took me 5 iterations before I got it to exactly where I want it. And then we've tested it out there, and those storytelling points are working. They are communicating. So it's not a one and done. It's not like, here's everything you need right now. It does pull together the systematic thinking using the story cycle system, but then enables you as the user to go in and revise, refine, tweak anything you want until you got it to where you want it. And then down the road, as you introduce more things or grow and evolve, then you go back in and you tweak it accordingly. And then from this, it creates your strategy, it creates your content, it does all that.
I love that.
Yeah, so it's been very, very fun. So it's kind of sounds like it's doing the same sort of things you are doing with agentic AI. You are going much deeper with the go-to-market strategies and the operational stuff than we are doing here. But I always like to test it on smart brains like yours that have been working with AI for a long, long time.
Thank you.
Yeah. Is there anything else in that report that caught your attention, good or bad?
Yeah, there was a few other areas. One second. The growth one was, spot on the physical gift. It is the cornerstone of who we are. I think in that one, it says the physical gift represents the tangible outcomes you deliver and the measurable results that customers can point to as a proof of value received, whether it's startup funding raised, revenue increased, or market share expanded. Growth is the quantifiable and aligns perfectly with your track record of helping startups raise 269 million in funding. This is the essence of who we are, right? Like if I think you and we talk about this a lot is we live in a world of if you have a fixed mindset, you will struggle. You will not be able to adapt at the rapid pace of innovation. This is probably the fastest innovation cycle we've ever in the history of man are going through, and it's only going to get faster and faster and faster. And I genuinely believe people with a growth mindset who are humble, who are tinkerers, who are constantly testing and iterating and trying, who are failing, is what we will evolve to as a humanity. We need to. If we are stuck on, hey, we need to do it this way because we did it this way a year ago, that's already too late. If we did it this way a week ago, I'm arguing it's too late. If we did it to go yesterday, it's just about right. Okay, so that is the counter argument I have in the cycle speed we're at, and this is part of us as humans. I think we need to share and partner and collaborate together and figure out what actually works and what doesn't work because of the speed of innovation that's occurring.
Yeah, without a doubt. Is there one other thing you might pull out of that report? And again, good or bad, something it missed on. Maybe it swung for the fences and struck out.
All right, let me see if I can find. It was pretty good. I read through the whole thing. So confidence. From the 9 descriptors, agents must identify the singular overarching emotional promising the brand delivers to everyone who works with and in the business. This promise is the North Star that evokes a consistent emotion communicated through brand story. It transforms because customers buy with their hearts and justify their purchase with their needs. The emotional promise must be expressed as a single word: confidence. My reasoning: this emotional promise emerges as the core feeling you deliver because it connects deeply with both audience inspirations while addressing their fears. The tech startups founders gain confidence to attract investors and scale successfully, making professionals gain confidence to lead AI transformations and advance their careers. Their emotional state underlines all interactions with your brand, from your proven track record to your educational approach. So this is not how we communicate, right? So how we communicate is building a startup is hard. It's like being in the trenches in World War One, and you're literally by yourself sometimes, and you don't know when you're supposed to look up or hide. Like that's what genuinely it feels like. Okay, how we communicate is we want to be in the trenches with you, and we want to learn together. We don't know all the answers. We know that this is going to be a hard journey, and let it be a startup, let it be a business trying to grow from 1 to 10 million, let it be a business growing from 12 to 50 million. Owning a business, running a business, scaling a business, all of those three things are incredibly hard to do. And what we enjoy is finding the right people that have the growth mindset and want to test and learn together. And our promise actually is you will fail 95% of the time. So that is our promise to you. We are brutally authentic and honest from the get-go. And every experiment that we run together will not necessarily work, and it's expected not to work. And what we're actually looking for is the learning process that comes along with that. So we can find the one or two experiments that can work that can help scale your business. So I don't know if it's confidence we're communicating. I think we're more communicating authenticity, reality, right? Lear Learning together, the challenge that businesses have, and we've been there with you. Like we've been there multiple times over the last 10 to 15, 20 years now, and we've seen this over and over again. And we're hoping our cumulative experience will help us not make the same mistakes, right? But the reality is, if it worked for one business in the same industry, it does not mean it will work for the same another business in the same industry. That is a reality, and we've seen that, right? So that is what we try to at least communicate.
Would that not lead to confidence, though, in that person saying, I have confidence in you, knowing that we're going to fail together 95% of the time? You are going to get me over the finish line with that 1% that we need because of your 20 years experience. I mean, why else would you go into the foxhole with someone if you didn't
Maybe
have
I see
confidence?
confidence in a different way. Maybe I see confidence as like, you know, pounding my chest. I'm the king of the world, kind of. Maybe it's just my misinterpretation of
No.
confidence.
Or what you can always do in the genie as well is say, okay, I like confidence, but I need a synonym that does a better job of communicating. This is not going to be easy. This is, we're going to be a slog. We're working together. We're going to lose 95% of the time, but we are going to have those 5% of victories. I need something that communicates that. And then the genie will come back and give you 3, sometimes 4 or 5 other words and the reasoning why these might be more appropriate to what you're looking for. Yeah.
That's very, very cool.
So that's where it brings the humanity into it. That's where just what you said. It's kind of there, Park, but not quite right. We need it to be more like, and then when you do land on that word, like all of the content in here is it goes into the genie's memory then. And when it's creating content for you, it will be the specific tone, ideal thought that you've established in the foundational story.
That's amazing.
Oh, it's really fun stuff. But anyways, thank you for letting me spring that on you. All my guests now, when they come on the show, I run their brand through the genie, send them the output and get their take on it. And I really appreciate yours, especially given your incredible background in AI. Where can people learn more about you? And I know you got a giveaway for our listeners as well. Would you share that with us? What? A
What giveaway?
$10,000
What is this promise? No, you can learn about me in multiple ways. So if you could search Azarian Growth Agency, that is our agency, Azarian Growth, GROWTH, agency, AGENCY, and they'll bring you over to our website. Or you can find me on LinkedIn as well. It's my first name, Hamlet, HAMLET, last name, Azarian, AZARIAN. And for all the listeners today, feel free to reach out and connect with me. And I promise what I'll do is I will do a free assessment and an audit of your business and give you an overall feeling of what are some things that you could potentially do to help either automate it or use agentic AI or different go-to-market strategies that might be of interest to you that you could potentially utilize all free of charge for you to be able to take some insights and maybe even implement yourself. So.
That is awesome. And I didn't mean to paint you in that corner because that's very generous of you. What I was talking about was your marketing, your 10 checklists AI marketing thing that people can
that's not as
access.
valuable as what I just gave. Come
I
on.
know it's not. So now they're getting a 1-2 punch. Are you kidding me? And we'll have
give
that link.
Too. We'll give that too.
We'll have that link in the show notes and all of your links there too. So Hamlet will be very easy for you to find over in the show notes. But thank you so much for taking the time today. And congratulations on your new home there in LA. That's very cool.
Thank you, Bart. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate your time. Thanks for listening to and sharing this edition of The Business of Story, and I truly appreciate you jumping over to iTunes and giving us a rating and review to help us get found, be heard in the noisy world we all compete in today. And if you are ready to carve out your defined niche and brand story in this noisy world, then check it out over at StoryCycleGenie.ai. It will turn your overwhelm into overjoyment because it is so fast, it is so easy, and it will create a brilliant brand story strategy for you. First, by validating what you're already doing well, then revealing gaps or missed opportunities that you can easily fix to generate your revenue and grow it. And finally, it provides you inspiration, new ways of thinking, fresh ideas about how to tell your brand story. Check it out, StoryCycleGenie.ai. And join me next Monday when we will have another amazing story artist right here for you. And until then, remember that the most potent story you'll ever tell is a story you tell yourself. So make that one epic. Thanks so much for listening.